is determined to rebuild our manufacturing base. We want more jobs, more products made right here in the United States.
The world kicking the tires over the latest Trump tariff. The president's former critic now in the passenger seat. Then,
America is safer today because of one of the top domestic terrorists in MS-13. He is off the street.
the worst of the worst now in custody. What we have just learned about the gang member captured in a quiet corner of Virginia. And later.
We're not prepared for this. We didn't, we thought, what are the odds this will ever happen again? And
Wildfire emergency. Hurricane Helene survivors up against hellish conditions for days. This is the National News Desk, America's News. Now, I'm Dee Dee Gatton. Thank you for joining us as we come on the air. World leaders reacting to President Trump's latest tariff announcement, this time on imports on vehicles and auto parts. Canada's new prime minister said they will look to trade with other countries, while European leaders say the tariffs create a heavy burden on them. 24% of German exports go to the U.S., but U.S. car makers are less exposed in a trade war in that just 2% of their exports go to Europe. UAW President Sean Fan praised the move and believes it will boost American manufacturing, a sentiment shared by some in Congress.
It's painful, but reciprocal trade, fair trade is what the president's trying to do. He wants the manufacturers in America. That makes sense to me.
And tied to these new tariffs could be the fate of TikTok. The popular social media app is facing a fast approaching deadline to sell or get banned in the U.S. National correspondent Matt Galka joins us from Washington with more on how the two go hand in hand.
The future of TikTok could go hand in hand with tariffs. The Chinese-owned app faces an April 5th deadline to find a non-Chinese buyer or risk a ban in the United States. But the president thinks a deal on tariffs could persuade China to authorize a sale.
Maybe I'll give them a little reduction in tariffs or something to get it done, because every point in tariff is worth more money than TikTok.
The president announced 25% tariffs on imported automobiles along with key parts used in vehicles, arguing it would help ramp up domestic production from automakers with underutilized auto plants here.
We're going to make sure that American workers are put first, and we're ending the unfair trade practices that have been hollowing out our middle class for decades.
The additional tariff on auto parts would likely hit China much harder than the tariff on cars themselves, which is where TikTok comes into play. The New York Post reports a deal is close that would see TikTok's current owner, Chinese-based ByteDance, taking a minority stake in TikTok, while American-based Oracle handles data and other non-Chinese-based companies form a majority stake. The app faces a ban over national security concerns, with claims the Chinese government can use it to spy on Americans. China would have to sign off on a deal.
I'm worried about our country more than anything else with respect to TikTok. And China is going to have to play a role in that, possibly, in the form of an approval. Maybe.
The deadline to find a deal was extended by 75 days when Trump came into office after TikTok was briefly banned. A group of Senate Democrats sent a letter this week urging the White House to work with Congress to pass another potential ban delay, saying the path to saving TikTok should run through Capitol Hill. And next week, Trump has called April 2nd Liberation Day for when he plans to impose reciprocal tariffs on other countries. On April 3rd, the new auto tariffs are set to start being collected. And later that week, the TikTok ban is set to take effect April 5th if there's no deal or no extension.
And Matt, it seemed like there was real momentum, in Congress and from voters to ban TikTok when the legislation was being considered. Is that still the case?
Well, what a difference 2 years makes. If polling is any indication, support for a ban has definitely gone down. In March of 2023, public support for a ban was at around 50%, according to Pew Research. 2 years later, that number is about 34%.
The difference there. Live from Washington, D.C., Matt Galka, thank you. Continuing coverage, U.S. District Judge James Boasberg says he's ordering the Trump administration to preserve the signal messages about an attack on Yemen that were accidentally leaked to a journalist. A government lawyer says administration officials were already working to save the messages. This as President Trump calls for an investigation into the country's judicial system, noting that Judge Boasberg ruled against the administration on deportation flights and was then assigned to the case on the signal racial chat controversy. In a True Social post, Trump suggested that this was not random and that the system is rigged. The lawsuit claims Trump officials' discussions in the chat broke the law. Today, White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt reiterated the administration's plans to make changes.
Well, we have never denied that this was a mistake, and the National Security Advisor took responsibility for that. And we have said we are making changes. We are looking into the matter to ensure it can never happen again.
Meantime, Americans believe the signal scandal roiling the Trump administration is a big deal. According to a new YouGov poll, 74% of Americans believe the national security breach, now being referred to as Signalgate, is serious. That includes 60% of Republicans, 53% called it a very serious problem. 21% say it's somewhat serious. Developing now, the Trump administration announced they arrested a top MS-13 leader. U.S. authorities say the arrest happened this morning in a suburban community about an hour outside of Washington, D.C. The National News Desk, Nick Minogue, has the latest in Dale City, Virginia.
America is safer today because of one of the top domestic terrorists in MS-13. He is off the streets.
U.S. Attorney General Pam Bondi and FBI Director Kash Patel were on scene when authorities arrested a man who they say is the top leader for MS-13 on the East Coast and one of the top 3 leaders of MS-13 in the United States.
He is an illegal alien from El Salvador, and he will not be living in our country much longer. He was the leader over it. All of the violent crimes. So he's very dangerous.
The arrest happened in Prince William County, Virginia.
Right here in Northern Virginia, one of the best areas in America.
Virginia Governor Glenn Youngkin said as soon as President Donald Trump was sworn in this year, he and the White House set up a task force to catch violent criminals who are in the U.S. illegally. And they developed a list of hundreds of targets leading to this latest arrest.
These were not lists that were available in the previous administration because they wouldn't do that.
Last month, Governor Youngkin deputized the state police to help the Trump administration's efforts to deport people who are in the U.S. illegally. It's something Pam Bondi is encouraging other governors to do in their states.
I want to have other governors, other law enforcement officers come here to Virginia and see this amazing task force, Governor, that is led by our agencies and Governor Youngkin. Let's see who takes us up on this to keep their states safe.
Las Vegas police have arrested 36-year-old Paul Kim as the suspect. They say vandalized a Tesla dealership, setting several vehicles on fire last week. Kim is facing state and federal charges and is the 4th person arrested across the country attacking Tesla businesses. Police say they're investigating whether there is any connection, but at this time they can't comment. The FBI says this arrest should serve as a warning to those willing to commit further crimes.
There's nothing courageous or noble about firebombing private property and terrorizing your local community. The self-righteous mob that's cheering you on today to commit acts of violence on their behalf will leave you high and dry and forget about you tomorrow.
In Alabama, a doctoral student is now being detained by ICE agents off campus at the University of Alabama. The school newspaper identifies the student as Iranian-born Alireza Douroudi. DHS has not specifically said why he was taken into custody. Douroudi is the latest foreign national legally in the country to attend a university to be arrested and threatened with deportation. Secretary of State Marco Rubio confirmed today that similarly, Turkish national Rumyesa Öztürk did have her visa revoked after being arrested on Tuesday.
Because I think it's crazy to invite students into your country that are coming onto your campus and destabilizing it. We're just not going to have it. So we'll revoke your visa, and once your visa is revoked, you're illegally in the country and you have to leave.
3 New York City postal workers are charged with sexually motivated kidnapping of a colleague. According to prosecutors, one of them is also charged with attempted rape and sexual abuse. The indictment accuses the 3 men of dragging an unconscious worker from a post office to a mail truck where one of them tried to rape her. The men have pleaded not guilty. The Kansas State Health Department Department confirmed 23 cases have been confirmed. Children make up the majority of the cases in Kansas, with 21 infections, 20 of whom are unvaccinated. The state health department says the cases could be related to the ongoing outbreak in Texas, New Mexico, and Oklahoma. Over 300 people have been impacted by the ongoing measles outbreak. The CDC says as of earlier this week, at least 378 people have been confirmed to have measles this year in the U.S. The Social Security Administration is going back on some newly announced requirements. Initially, millions of new and existing beneficiaries would have to physically show up at a Social Security office to verify their identity. Now, the agency says people applying for Social Security disability insurance, Medicare, or supplemental security income who cannot apply online can finish their claim over the phone. The changes are set to start April 4th. Coming up, the latest East Coast wildfire to explode in size as more counties are now under a state of emergency. Then, the sweeping changes Secretary Kennedy is making to HHS and the brand new agency he's creating. Then later, what Texas officials are doing to stop gun control laws from going into effect in that state. We're back in 90 seconds.
We didn't know if we were going to come home to losing everything we had. On my way home, I'm like, is the clothes on my back going to be all that I have at the end of the day?
Crews continue to battle destructive wildfires in the Western Carolinas and are now dealing with a newer wildfire in North Georgia. Dozens of counties are under a state of emergency as full-time employees are losing their jobs. It comes as HHS Secretary Robert Kennedy says nearly $2 billion a year. Kennedy says essential health services won't be affected.
We're going to consolidate all of these departments and make them accountable to you, the American taxpayer, and the American patient.
And many of these departments will be moved under the umbrella of a new department, the Administration for a Healthy America. Health experts warn the cuts will endanger public health, hitting at divisions that ensure the poorest Americans approve new drugs and respond to disease outbreaks. California and Governor Newsom, the latest to be under investigation for allowing biological males to compete in women's school sports. Education Secretary Linda McMahon asking Newsom to clarify recent comments, calling it unfair to let males play in women's sports, and yet state policy still allows it. The secretary wants the governor to comply with Title IX. National correspondent Kelly Gaskins has more on how states are pushing back on President Trump's executive order to ban transgender athletes from women's and girls' sports.
The state of Maine is ground zero in the political fight over transgender athletes. Thursday, marking the deadline for the state to fall in line with the executive order signed by President Trump, barring biological men from women's and girls' sports.
My administration will not stand by and watch men beat and batter female athletes, and we're just not going to let it happen, and it's going to end, and it's ending right now, and nobody's going to be able to do a damn thing about it, because when I speak, we speak with authority.
Maine's Governor Janet Mills testing Washington's authority, saying they'll operate by state law when it comes to athletic participation.
You better comply, because otherwise you're not getting any federal funding. Every state, good, I'll see you in court. I look forward to that. That should be a real easy one.
The University of Maine Athletics already agreed to comply with the order, which was also implemented by the NCAA. So the governor's defiance mainly impacts high school and grade level sports. Sinclair's WGME spoke with Governor Mills Wednesday.
This is about the rule of law. Okay, it's about who makes the laws, which is the legislature and the Congress, and who enforces and executes the laws, which is the chief executive. It's as simple as that.
Minnesota and California also pushing back against the president's order. California has a hearing set on the issue for April 1st. It will be the first public debate since Democratic Governor Gavin Newsom told conservative podcaster Charlie Kirk trans athletes in girls' sports is deeply unfair.
Would you do something like that? Would you say no men in female sports?
Well, I think it's an issue of fairness. I completely agree with you on that. It is an issue of fairness.
By not complying with Trump's order, Maine risks losing hundreds of millions of dollars in federal funding and an investigation by the Justice Department for potential violations of Title IX. In Washington, I'm Kayla Gaskins, reporting for the National News Desk, America's News Now.
Congresswoman Elise Stefanik is no longer the administration's nominee as U.S. ambassador, citing the very close margins in the House. The president has asked the New York Congresswoman to stay in the House. It was expected that she would have easily secured confirmation in the Senate if given a vote. New details. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky met with European leaders in Paris today while ceasefire negotiations continue. Overnight, Russia attacks hit a gas pipeline in Kherson, injuring at least 5 people. Energy targets are supposed to be a part of the partial ceasefire agreed to during talks in Saudi Arabia. The European leaders are seeking to increase pressure on Russia to finally end the war.
Complete clarity that now is not the time for lifting of sanctions. Quite the contrary, what we discussed is how we can increase sanctions to support the US initiative to bring Russia to the table through further pressure from this group of countries.
An urgent search for 4 American soldiers missing in Lithuania since Tuesday continues. The U.S. Army says hundreds of troops and emergency responders are working around the clock to find them. The soldiers' armored vehicle was found submerged in water. Lithuanian defense officials say there's no evidence confirming the soldiers are dead. Frito-Lay is pulling bags of Tostitos Cantina traditional yellow corn tortilla chips off the shelves in 13 states. Right here as you take a look at your screen. The company says the chips may contain undeclared milk, causing potential health problems if you have dairy-related allergies. This recall does not impact other Tostitos products. And it is that time of the year for baseball fans to enjoy some peanuts and Cracker Jacks at the ballpark. It's opening day for Major League Baseball with 14 games today. Some of you didn't need a reminder on that. Our reporters in Cincinnati went to the city's annual Finlay Market Parade and asked some experts who showed up to give their thoughts.
I love the Reds.
Why is that?
Because they the best team in the whole entire city. I love Reds. We gonna win.
I'm hoping they'll do pretty good this year.
Better than last year?
Yeah, I got high hopes.
What do you think? Maybe a World Series run this year?
Hopefully.
See the guy in the white shirt, the number 17?
The Cincinnati Reds, your baseball team. What do you think about it?
I like the
Do you like the color red? But you like pink better, don't you?
No, I like blue.
You like blue? Should they be the Cincinnati Blues?
Mm-hmm. I love the Reds.
Why do you love them so much?
Because they're a pretty good team and they do a lot of stuff for us and they make a lot of videos and they play for us and it's for Ohio and all that.
Right on. How about you? You like the Reds?
No.
No? Who do you like?
The Greens.
What are the Reds going to do this year?
Okay, we're gonna win the World Series with our new manager, who is the best manager ever. Basing this on skill and facts, my own facts, in my opinion.
Are you tired yet?
No!
Apparently not.
Never tired! Woo!
What do you think about all this?
I like to play, and sometimes I just be scared.
You're just happy to be here, aren't you?
So cute. Hope your team does well. Coming up next year, why one official in Seattle is so relieved that a major homeless shelter there has closed for good.
And up and down the neighboring sidewalks. King County Executive Dow Constantine said while DESC is better suited to speak to the NAV Center, he did offer this.
We try things. If they don't work, we reassess
and then we try new approaches.
That new approach is the Star Center downtown. All the NAV Center residents have moved here, and the facility boasts big changes, 24/7 security.
The bill is Senate Bill 1362, introduced by State Senator Brian Hughes.
This bill deals with our Second Amendment rights, well known to people here and across Texas and the country.
If passed, it would prevent local governments from passing their own red flag laws.
That's that situation where your firearms, a person's firearms, can be taken away from them without due process of law.
Red flag laws are often used by judges to remove guns from suspects in domestic violence cases. They're also known as extreme risk protective orders. The Texas Senate voted along party lines to give SB 1362 initial approval, with 20 Republicans voting yes and 11 Democrats voting no.
We first told you about Michael Wilkinson's ailing heart in November. He's been dealing with heart problems for the past 14 years. On March 12th, he made the heart transplant list. 13 days later, the wait was over.
A very sad and tragic day for one family, and a very stressful, exciting, and hopeful day for my family.
Michael was in surgery for 14 hours. His wife, Tiffany, was anxious to see him in recovery.
They said there were no complications, that everything went okay, but there was just a little more work that needed to be done than the average.
Coming up, it's likely the most expensive coin collection ever to go to auction. Just how much it's expected to go for, we'll tell you right after this.